And in the absence of a theme tune, if you're watching and you're a creative person and you'd like to contribute an opening theme to the Resident podcast, which this is, with me, Carl Munson, and Natasha Donn, please do so. We welcome you to our weekly look at the news review here. Our special guest behind the scenes is already giving me a bit of banter. We have somebody joining us. This is a new formula, Natasha. Before we go there, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Right. Excellent. Okay, simple as that.
Yeah.
And we have a new format for the news review where we have a special guest join us, different guest every week, although I suspect some will return from time to time. And our very special guest this week is Paul Rees, a columnist at the Resident, and I think an old friend of yours as well. So here he is, Paul Rees, everybody. Great to see you, Paul. How are you? Let's put you in between us there. We'll have a Paul Rees sandwich this morning. How are you, Paul? Can you hear us? Can you see us?
He might not have the microphone.
It looks like...
No, I can hear Natasha. I can't hear Carl.
Really? How bizarre is that? I've never had that difficulty. Natasha...
I can hear you, but not him.
Right, if you can hear me, Natasha, then perhaps you can translate.
Stream this to your audience, start the conversation. 3 people.
Okay. So listen, he's jabbering away, Paul. What are you going to say, Carl?
Could you please translate and convey my messages to Paul?
Yes.
The first of which is to welcome him to this new format of the news of the Resident News Review.
Okay, so you're being welcomed. This we can't work it like this, but you're being welcomed. And I guess Carl wants you to introduce your first topic, the first topic of the day.
Yes, please.
Yeah?
Paul.
Please
well,
tell us.
I will do, but I don't know if he can hear me.
He can hear you. You're quite quiet, though, unless that's because I'm going deaf, which I think I am anyway.
Well,
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to suggest that Paul comes back in again. So please leave, sir. And
now he's telling you to leave, Paul.
Yeah.
And then come back in. I mean, maybe he has to turn his... No, but it doesn't make sense if he can hear me.
The dogs are barking in the background.
My dogs are making a terrible noise.
Paul Rees, it came on but can't be heard, or he can't hear me. I've never had that difficulty before, so I'm going to boot him unceremoniously from the studio and have him come back in again. So let's see what happens there. What we'll do in the meantime, Natasha, because the show must go on, we'll go to your news pick for the week. And that will be Lajes, and hopefully Paul will join us soon.
I was so looking forward to listening to Paul first. Okay, so my news pick of the week was, I thought, a very interesting sort of moment, because we had the great fanfare. It was called the Grande Reportage on RTP, which is the state broadcaster. And it was the finance minister, the foreign affairs minister, and he was going to talk about the United States' use of Lajes Air Base during the Iran conflict.
Yes.
And this has created a great deal of controversy, because people are very upset that the airbase is being used for all these planes that are coming in, refueling, and off they go to the Middle East, and then they are involved in what is largely seen as an illegal war.
Yeah.
People have been very upset about it. And Portugal keeps saying, but we've got this agreement, And anyway, we've had this assurance, they said, that all the planes that are arriving are not immediately going off to bomb, as if that was, somehow getting us off the hook. Anyway, what they couldn't really say that about these drones called MQ Reapers. Now, MQ Reapers, I mean, there's an awful lot about them, but they are described as the first hunter-killer UAV standing for unmanned unmanned what? Aerial, probably. Anyway, whatever.
We get the gist.
Unmanned aerial vehicle, I think. But they carry the most extraordinary number of bombs. They can carry a variety of weapons, including laser-guided bombs, air-to-ground missiles, direct attack munitions. I mean, they are killer drones. That's what they're known as. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, this entire interview, which again I could not work out, was conducted with the minister not mentioning them once. Now, they have passed through Lajes on a previous occasion earlier this month. and that we were told that this week, that there's a new request by America to have them use the base now until June. And he didn't mention that once. And he just said, oh, but the base is hardly being used. Again, not true. He said it's a minimal use when you consider the US build up in the Middle East. Well, of course, it would be minimal when you consider the US build up in the Middle East, because that's where the battle is. But it is still very, it's very relevant. Anyway, the interviewer didn't really tackle him on this question of the killer drones. Luce's report was very anodyne and said, basically, everything is cool. And then within hours of this interview having gone out, basically a load of hot air, the killer drones started flying through Lajes. Again, it's not been reported in the mainstream media, but luckily I was, I just nosed about, and within 5 minutes you quickly find a Facebook page called Asas dos Açores, where there were some fantastic photographs showing the drones arriving. And the man who took the photographs captioned them with, "Calm down, Aunt Mary's, they've already gone." In other words, they got in really, really in the dark,
Mary's, right.
And they got out in the dark, so that hopefully nobody would be there. But there was this very astute photographer called Kurt Mendonça, I think. So good for Kurt Mendonça, bless his heart, because he's obviously there with his long-range
telescopic
camera.
Yes, and liable for arrest, presumably putting himself in danger.
No,
like
I don't think so. I think you're allowed to be a plane spotter. A plane spotter. I mean, he's put it on Asas dos Açores Facebook page. It hasn't been shut down.
Well, that's where you should go if you want to have a look. We're talking about Portugal's Foreign Minister, Paulo Rangel, and Portugal's position has always been clear. He says it does not support the conflict or the attack that triggered it, but supports diplomatic efforts. Goes on to say, we are essentially interested in achieving a lasting ceasefire that creates conditions for peace negotiations and the two sides can accept. Yes, and preferring not to talk just specifically about the drones. Paul, I think you can hear us both now. What do you make of this?
Yeah, diplomatic solution with drones hovering above.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It's quite the intervention, isn't it? Yeah.
It's political speak, avoiding the issue under the guise of don't you know there's a war on loose words cost lives. It's the normal nonsense ministerial pre-planned, pre-prepared statement that, as Natasha says, you can read more into it by what's not said than what is said.
And Portugal has a skill, I think, in being able to message both ways, sending out the message of we're hosting killer drones, and we don't want this to be too nasty. Portugal seems quite good at that, I think. I
disagree, because I think the João in the street can see straight through it, so it doesn't work particularly well. And then they shrug and say, "Yeah, that's politics."
But the thing is, they can't see straight through it unless somebody says the drone's already using the base, and no one has.
Yes.
And the man in the street is not looking at, I don't think, Asas dos Açores Facebook page, so they don't know. So this is what it irritates me, because everybody, I find it that everybody just takes a text from Luce and puts it on their website.
Not you, Natasha.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes. Well, you are bringing this to people's attention. Go on, Paul.
Yeah, I think what happens, though, is somebody will hear somebody that's heard something based on fact that is not published in the newspapers, and that spreads around the bars and cafes like wildfire. And then it just creates more suspicion. And then the politicians say it's just conspiracy theories, when actually it's more accurate than what they've announced.
Well, that's
really true. I don't spend any time in bars and things, so I don't hear. I have to do it myself.
Spend my life with them.
Well, this João in the street character we want to meet. If you'd like to guest on the Resident Podcast News Review on a Friday, and you are a João in the street, you'd be very welcome to do so. Paul is joining us somewhat in that capacity. We had a technical difficulty on arrival. Let's go to your news pick that you would like to put before us and discuss. This is about is it the current governor of the Bank of England, Paul?
As of close of play last night, he was, yeah.
What do you suspect then?
Alvaro Sanchez Pereira. No, the governor of the Bank of England, is back in the news. Not directly accused of fraud, but yet again, it's his judgment.
Oh, okay. Can I just correct you there? The Bank of Portugal, right? Not the Bank of England. Yeah.
Sorry, Bank of Portugal. Yeah, sorry, Bank of Portugal. His judgment, he's just been caught out, I would say, for share trading when he's absolutely banned from doing so,
right.
due to his position as the head of the Bank of Portugal. And indeed, any Bank of Portugal employees are not allowed to trade shares, to buy and sell shares whilst employed and for 6 months after. Apparently, claiming ignorance is a time-honoured tradition, and he's been caught out by the papers for trading in shares during the time that he's been the governor, and he's the one in charge of the rules. So, what message does that send out? But this is I was going to say the end. This is another incident of a long career of either being hopelessly incompetent, but certainly being a puppet. I could go back through his career. It probably starts with, do you remember the submarine case back in the...
You're very familiar with this character.
No, well, he's always in the background, and he's kind of wheeled out to take the rap quite often. Not that I feel any sympathy for him at all. Right. But he took over the brief after it was the time of Duarte Barroso and Paulo Portas. Some really unseemly,
really murky stuff. But you know what?
Is that why it was called the submarine case, or was it actually to do with submarines?
Well, it was to do the submarine case. Germany offloaded some submarines to Portugal that stumped up 600 million euros. That was a ridiculous amount of money for some clapped out old things that I don't think ever worked.
Sounds like a car boot sale.
So the smooth salesman at Ferrostal in Germany said, "Oh yes, awfully good, very good value."
German engineering.
And Portugal said, "Well, can we get something in return?" And then it was the time in arms trade where you had contrapartidas. What's that in English?
They called it. It's like a backhander, but it's not. It's that's the rude way of saying it. It's kind of a quid pro quo.
Yes, exactly. So we'll buy your submarines, and you must invest 600 million in Portugal. And they said, "Oh, well, absolutely super deal." This is where the whole thing goes into murk. They use a company called Eskom in the UK, actually, to filter the money through, where 34 million got stuck and was used as bribes, basically. And then the counterparty is, do you remember there's a hotel, that Falaisia, where they're building the desalination plant, the hotel there that they're going to buy and do up, and that's a couple of 100 million, and everything was vastly overvalued, and actually nothing happened. Then our man took over and said, "Yes, well, we're going to sort this out, absolutely." And he started cancelling. There was one contrapartida. I don't know what it was based on, but it was 46 million. He just said, "Well, okay, we'll take that one off the table." And I'm thinking, well, I remember at the time thinking, at the stroke of a pen, you can just eat away. Why not cancel a lot? And in effect, nothing was ever invested anywhere. I mean, it was just useless. Then there's a big inquiry, and it went to court in both countries. Germany, quite rightly, found guilty the two Ferrostal executives. Ferrostal, the submarine supplier, was fined 140 million. They've been doing the same in Greece as well, so I think a bit of it covered that. And in Portugal, there was a very strict inquiry, and everybody was made arguido, and it all went to court, and everyone was, well, there's not enough evidence.
My goodness. The earlier use of the word bribes, I'm going to put inverted commas around that and say allegedly, unless, of course, that is not.
There were bribes. The Portuguese consul in Germany was done in Germany for $1 million.
Oh, okay.
Actually, his lawyer phoned me up and said, "I want you to retract everything you've ever written about my client." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "Because we're appealing the judgment." And I said, well, good luck with that. And when the appeal is through and the results through, let me know, and I'll print that as well.
Right.
This was under Algarve Daily News that I used to run.
Yeah.
So it was hugely murky. But Pereira, he said he was told to go in and sort it out. He called the contrapartida deal a fallacy. It wasn't a fallacy. It was a contract, and he made light of it.
Easy mistake to make.
Yeah, and then he said, "Well, anyway, a big boy did it and ran away." I was told to say all this, and it's not me, really. I mean, it was just bizarre.
How incredible!
It set the tone for the large parts of his career.
Go on, Natasha.
Do you know what I was thinking about this, though, as well, Paul, is that we've got this guy who comes out of, political obscurity after 10 years. And it's almost like this 10 years is a sort of a pattern. Because yesterday, and I haven't done anything on it yet, I saw that Macario Correa is back. Yes, he apparently, and he went out 10 years ago, I think, condemned to 4.5 years suspended sentence for prevarication in the public office. Yeah. But no, he's back. He's back now, and he's going to be in charge of the wonderful Agua que nos une, the water that unites us plan.
God, right.
And that plan actually will tie right in with your topic.
Yeah, no,
your topic, Carl, because you want to talk about data centers which puzzle water.
Yes, before I move on to that, yes, in the earlier technical hurly-burly, Paul, I didn't give you a proper introduction, and you mentioned there, of course, you used to run the Algarve Daily News, wherein people might write to you from time to time saying, "I want you to retract what you've said," as you outlined there, and of course, more recently of rural properties, rural-properties.com, if you want to find out what Paul's up to at the moment. You might recognise him from the Algarve days and see what he's up to in central Portugal now. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Paul? Sorry, it wasn't a very warm or competent welcome earlier on.
No, it's fine. No, it's just but Pereira then went on, just to summarise on him, he then went on. He was involved in the EDP overpayments. He was involved in A&A privatisation, the airports, the absolute dog's breakfast that was the first time around. And wherever there's trouble, he's either sent to sort it out badly, or it's sort of on his watch. So he's never been done for fraud or anything. He's just deeply incompetent. And to have somebody with that track record in charge of the Bank of Portugal is... even when he joined the Bank of Portugal, there was a scandal over the payment to the previous governor who was kicked out early to make way for this person. Yeah, so it's one of those ones where a bit like Mandelson, where wherever he goes, sort of chaos and suspicion swirl in his wake.
Yes. No sexual problems.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be happy entirely with that.
Yeah, I just wonder what really these institutions are all about in the end. Because if you think about it, what is the European Central Bank? It sounds so smart, doesn't it? It sounds like so in control. How come they said, listen, great, we'll go along with your choice? Why didn't they say, do you know what? Could we have another choice?
Yes.
I don't get it.
He trips himself up after a year. I mean, it's deeply hopeless.
But no, he's only been in office for, Paul, only about 3 months.
Oh, is it? Oh, go on.
Yeah, he came in, I think, about October, November.
And he didn't read your book.
This would be Alvaro Santos Pereira that we're talking about. I want to ask you about the claiming ignorance about buying shares. What ignorance can you claim? I didn't realise who I was working for. I didn't know which company these shares were in. Is that what the sort of thing that's said?
I didn't realise what I was doing.
Know what I was doing. This turned up, I don't know how. Right, okay, right.
Yeah. You're the head of an organisation, and you break one of the clear rules that will be in the staff handbook. I mean, it's bloody obvious, and it's a very good rule. I mean, most senior people at Bank of Portugal get their family to buy shares for.
But he broke the rules 4 times.
Yes,
in a couple of months.
Yeah,
well, on more positive news, I see that Revolut seems to be rubber stamping its way into the mainstream banking scenario here, which I welcome. The disruptor that is Revolut. Hopefully, things will change because banks are incredibly sort of prehistoric, aren't they? All over the world, and I welcome personally some disruption and change there, and it's good to see Revolut changing fortunes literally here. It is the Peter Principle. Thank you, Pete. And we welcome your comments and suggestions for special guests here on the new remixed news review for the Portugal resident. It is the Peter Principle. You get promoted to your level of incompetence. That sounds about right, doesn't it? Unfortunately, those that claim the most are usually the least qualified. Thank you, Solar Life Portugal there. Very good. Okay, which kind of... Oh, have you finished everything that you wanted to say about this matter, Paul?
Well, I could go on about him.
You could go on forever. He's an expert on this topic.
Yes.
On Revolut, by the way, yes, Revolut setting up in Portugal. When they get all the Portugal banking licenses, etc., they then will be one of the banks that you do have to put down on your finances site if you have an account with them. If you keep an account in Liechtenstein or Latvia, wherever my UK account was transferred to, you don't have to register that, because currently that you don't have to register it. That and N26 with the two online banks, the Bank of Portugal couldn't get its head around. Yes. And that because they didn't have banking licenses in Portugal, you didn't have to put them down legally on your finances side. So all the people that are being exhorted to switch to Revolut Portugal, it's great. As soon as you do that, you're under a legal obligation to fill in that bit on your finances, on the finances portal that says, what bank accounts do you have worldwide? But now you don't have to. Not that I'm evading anything. It's just I think they know enough about me, don't you?
Fair point, and a useful insight there. So thank you for that, Paul. Let's move on to my news pick now, which I suspect you'll both have a view on. This is Portugal well positioned to attract data centers. I'd like to just share a little bit with you. EDP chief believes country has the right conditions to outcompete other destinations. That sort of talk can often end up as egg on face, I think. Portugal is stepping up its bid to become a major hub for data centers and artificial intelligence infrastructure. Is that true, or are they just chucking in an attractive buzzword or phrase? Betting on lower energy prices and a growing renewable base to attract global investors. But industry leaders warn that unless the country tackles slow licensing and boost infrastructure, it could miss out on a wave of investment already reshaping the global economy. At the center of this push is a simple argument: energy matters, and Portugal, along with the wider Iberian Peninsula, has an edge on other destinations. Now, there's a lot to this, I think, because one thing that I discovered in the last 48 hours, that Portugal is among the highest adoption among the population of AI. 62% of people, I'm not sure exactly how they work it out, but we would appear to be leading the way, us Portuguese, if I may say that, in adoption of AI. This looks good. It looks like we are well set up until you scratch the surface, right? We have some other incredible, I think, things that nod in the direction of this with our large amount of renewables. Data centers are energy intensive, however, particularly those running high density AI workloads. Portugal's ability to generate over 70% and up to 85% of its electricity from renewables, combined with industrial energy prices roughly 30% below the EU average, makes it the cost-effective and sustainable location for the brains of the AI revolution. That's all well and good, isn't it? Until we start talking about the environmental impact and how much water's needed to cool down these data centers, as well as the environmental noise. I think people who complain about wind farms and that that you can hear all night, all day long. Similar concerns, I believe, are aired about data centers. There's a hum of fans because there's an incredible cooling process involved. What do you make of this, Natasha? I think you've got quite strong views on this. Data centers, it seems like a good idea on the surface, but it might not be so brilliant for Portugal.
It's not a good idea at all. There was a fantastic, and I want to write about it this over the weekend or today maybe, but there was a CNN story that came out, and they were quoting a study that hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but it was basically showing how the global warming around data centers, the land around data centers, apparently as far as 100 kilometers radius was being warmed massively. I mean, we're talking 2% to 9% as a result of this activity. There's also been talk about it. I think that I've seen something on Sky. There's been talk, and obviously the Guardian's done a big story, and the head of investigations for Global Witness Climate Campaign, I think put it very well. He said, to waste what little bandwidth we have left when 75 million people worldwide lack access to electricity, assisting some of the richest men ever to hone their plagiarism bots would be a historic idiocy that future generations are unlikely to forgive. To be honest, I think this is a sort of wet dream. It's one of those many stories we get that Portugal is going to become the hub for this and the hub for that. But I think when it comes down to it, we're going to have environmental impact assessments. We're going to have all the climate people on top of this. And it's going to take, I hope, let's pray for the licensing procedures to take a long time, because it would be crazy if we start investing in this kind of path.
I see.
And already boiling hot.
Yeah, are you nodding in agreement there, Paul?
Yeah, it's a case of follow the money. And if you look at the energy consumption of these beasts, then yes, it's all green. They'll sign green contracts for green energy, which soaks up all the green energy, and the rest of us have to start pressing the button on fossil fuel production or importing more from Spain. I mean, they're so greedy. I would say even one would disrupt the current balance, the current growth in our renewables against old type of energy production. There's that also. When these things are built, they employ virtually nobody. That's the whole point. And
yes.
Third, in terms of follow the money, where does the profit end up?
Well,
there's very little economic benefit to Portugal apart from having a huge glowing machine sucking up seawater and spitting it back out hot, employing half a dozen people checking that the wiring's all right, providing a service that's paid for, and the profit goes to another country. So where's the benefit to Portugal? Big benefit to EDP, of course, who produced, whose press release actually, I suspect, triggered Natasha's article.
I didn't write that. I couldn't have written that, Paul.
Who is it?
This isn't one of Natasha's. This is.
No, I couldn't have written that because there are so many downsides to this. That to start, talking it up as being the great new economic hope, it's just almost criminal.
There's not a lot of that is from the EDP press release.
To people who might think that's a somewhat sort of Luddite attitude to this great opportunity, I'm not one of them. I'm looking for some possible balance in this, in the sense that if we don't take advantage of this opportunity, somebody else will. It's going to happen anyway. Is there a right amount of data center, I suppose, is the essence of my question to you both. Can we take advantage of what I think is good positioning for Portugal? And this idea that we have the connections to we are the gateway, are we not, in many ways, for the internet in and out of Europe, to Africa and to the United States. I'll take on board you'll follow the money argument, Paul, that the profits from this will go to China and the US, and the great Portuguese EDP company isn't actually Portuguese, so there's not going to be a great benefit there. Could it be licensed or negotiated in a way that truly does help Portugal at all, or do you think it's just an absolutely no-go area for us, Natasha?
Well, that's a big question. I hope it can be. And let's see. But I also hope that the licensing and the problems that will come from the environmental lobby are put as many spokes into this wheel as possible while we really understand the implications. Because I think this is the problem with this story. They're running with the ball, but they don't understand the implications yet.
And that's not unfamiliar, is it, to us?
That's typical of Portugal.
All upside and follow the money. However, if a full 360-degree view, opinions of stakeholders were heard, then perhaps we could have something useful on our hands. What do you think, Paul?
I think the government's grip on the Environment Agency means it does what it's told, and it will be told in this instance that there's an overwhelming economic argument to have data centers in Portugal. I think if there's an analysis of the money, yes, it will benefit EDP, and you're right, the majority of shareholders are are Chinese. I think the majority, or a huge proportion. The others are nice companies like BlackRock. I mean, it's just quite extraordinary. No, this benefits EDP. It'll be selling large amounts of energy. It will be able to expand its capacity, which really means more. What do you call those things? Pylons and pipes and this, that, and the other. It doesn't, but for the half dozen people that will work in the data center, sure, it'll be built probably by a French company or Chinese, and then there'll be half a dozen people wandering around with clipboards. So I can't see the benefit to Portugal that is having enough trouble expanding its green energy production already.
Yes, from which you could say the João in the street is not benefiting, right?
Yeah. Well, not in terms of price, no, but in terms of planet, perhaps.
Yes.
So to suddenly have these hugely greedy things that need to be supplied, and it's national importance, and the EU will say, "Oh yes, we definitely need this," and there's pipes to America and cables, and we're all linked in. What a brave new world! If you look at that economic impact, to the benefit of Portugal, zero, and probably a minus figure. To the benefit of those who basically are dumping their rather environmental factories in other countries.
Interesting. So it might revert to this idea of digital colonization then, where we will be sold the benefits, but in fact we're just becoming serfs in service to the great big IA.
Very hot serfs, remember, because we're going to have our very hot country in the summer heated up even more.
Right.
And we're going to have our water guzzled.
Yep. Okay.
So
all right.
We're all going to be laughing.
Not getting a very warm reception here. I think it's fair to say thank you very much, Natasha. And Paul,
thank you.
And we'll do this again next week. Paul, will you come back from time to time? It's been great having you here.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Good.
Always a pleasure. I'll be seeing you soon on the property thing anyway.
I hope. Yes, and of course you can read Paul's column in the Portugal Resident and see Natasha's daily news in the Portugal Resident. And if you have a suggestion for another guest to come and join us on a Friday morning, please send it to me or Natasha. And we're wishing you a very happy Workers' Day, May Day, Labour Day here in Portugal, and a bom fim de semana também. Thank you very much. Take care and bye for now.
Bye.